Okay, hello everyone. We're back. Apologies for my big fuzzy house coat. And you may hear some sounds in the background because the Crown is playing in my bedroom and I forgot to turn it off. So, and I'm too lazy to get up and turn it off. So hopefully the mic isn't, oh, there is a fuzz on my nose. Okay. Well, sorry that I was MIA. I woke up sick, and I think it's just, it's that time of year where I am in Canada where the weather, you'll get like a hot day and then a cold day and then a hot day. It like just goes back and forth, and or it'll be hot during the day and then cold at night. So you're just you're opening the windows all day and then turning the heat on at night, and it just gets a little hard on the system. I always get sick this time of year, and it's just a busy time of year, And we're in production week, and the play opens this weekend. So, there's been late rehearsals, and anyway, blah, blah, blah. Everyone's busy, everyone's tired. So, okay, this is a really short chapter. And like I said, I don't even remember. And the next one after that is a little longer. So maybe we'll do two. I don't remember what chapter we're in because they're not numbered. Oh. Okay, sorry. The lighting is going to be doing weird things. Okay. That's wild. Okay. First chapter, we're going to begin. Okay, little recap. Last time, I don't even remember what happened. Have mercy. I'm so tired. I can't wait for the next book. But we've just read this much. Like, this might be the rest of the year, guys, but oh God, we got to get through it. I mean, maybe I should start doing longer readings. It's just I don't have the time. Okay. Tell me what you think. Would you like longer readings? Like, would you like hour-long readings every time? Hour and a few minutes, After the play is done, I could, probably, have more time. So, let me know what you think. All right. This chapter is called Public-Private Secret. I'm probably going to butcher this name, so bear with me. Gabriel Garcia Marquez once wrote that every person has 3 lives: a public life, a private life, and a secret life. In the years after Ray Elias moved into my church, I certainly had all 3 of those. I was living right out there in the blazing focus of the public eye, being observed by millions of strangers who, having read Eat, Pray, Love, had become deeply invested in me. They wanted to know everything about my marriage, my personal growth story, and my ongoing spiritual and creative journey. Time magazine named me one of the 100 most influential people in the world. But does that mean anything anymore? Like, didn't Time magazine recently also honor Blake Lively and Meghan Markle? Like, the bar is in hell. Okay. Speaking of Meghan Markle. No, I'm going to leave that. We'll talk about our next book later, but it's not about Meghan Markle, but it's all connected. That's your hint. Okay. Blah, 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 which is a hilarious title to bestow upon a codependent who has always felt responsible for everyone. I tried with all my heart to use that influence in the most ethical and useful manner possible, because apparently it was now my job to save the entire world. I taught workshops and gave TED Talks. As my social media grew, I grew right along with it, sharing my life and my thoughts online. I joined progressive social movements and attempted to be a good ally. I helped to raise money and awareness wherever suffering and injustice lurked. And I never stopped writing. That was my public life, and it looked good. As for my private life, it was good. Out of respect for my ex-husband, a man whom I still care about and admire dearly, I will share nothing further in these pages about him, other than to say that we were always good to each other, that we loved each other, and that we are still kind to each other. I don't know how kind it is to, like, go have an affair, but okay. I mean, I don't know that it was, an arrangement they had. Anyway, guys, I'm brain dead. Okay. But I had a secret life too. And in my secret life, I wasn't doing so hot. I wasn't acting out in my sex and love addiction, but I was almost never not tense and afraid. Hi, buddy. Hi. My cat. Hello. Do you want to come up? Just 1 second, guys. Trying not to lose my place as I hoist the boy. Okay. There we go. Okay. Oh no, you want to leave so soon? Oh, good boy. Okay. All right, so much for that. Oh no, I lost my place. All right. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-da-da. Like, you should not do this when you're not feeling good. Okay, here we go. Last time was also chaotic, so we're just following a little trajectory at the moment. We'll get back to normal here soon. Okay. Where were we? What was she saying? Secret life. Okay, she wasn't acting out her sex and love addiction, but almost never not. I hate the double negatives. Almost never not tense. Why can't you just say, but I wasn't acting out my sex and love addiction, but I was always tense and stressed out and scared, instead of saying, like, I was never not. Okay. I was hardly ever not, here we go again. I was hardly ever not worried that my life was going in the completely wrong direction, that I had made all the wrong choices, that I was a fraud, that there was something fundamentally bad and wrong about me, and that I should be ashamed of myself. Well, I don't know. Sorry for the slurping. These feelings had nothing to do with my career, with my marriage, or with anything that was going on inside or outside my home. They were just the feelings I'd always had, the foundational doubts and fears that festered at the core of my being. I'd always felt there was something wrong with me, something missing, something contaminated in my groundwater. Even on my best days, and there were so many best days back then, I still felt low-key, bewildered, and unsafe. But I kept those feelings secret because they seemed ungrateful, given my multitude of blessings. Anyway, I was accustomed to that sense of dis-ease. Yeah, it's called unease, but I see what you're doing there. D-I-S apostrophe ease. Like, subtle. Because that's just how life feels, right? Terrifying and nerve-wracking. And listen, I worked hard to be happy back then and to keep my head above water. Gratitude lists and exercise, self-help books and personal growth programs, and quality time with loved ones, staying out of trouble and living an exemplary life, seeking professional help and therapies of all kinds when I needed extra support. But I also drank every day. Maybe not a huge amount of alcohol by some people's standards, but I certainly needed to drink every day. And I also needed to take sleeping pills every night. I messed around with weed too. And I was constantly on and off antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication. Okay, what's y'all's thoughts about weed? Okay, now everyone will swear up and down to you that it's not addictive. But the people in my life who smoke a lot of weed, I beg to differ. Like, maybe not the weed itself is addicting, but the state that it puts them in. Because, okay, some of them, like, can't function daily now without it. Like, they used to. I remember. and now they can't. So that is a dependence. So a dependence to me would equal an addiction. But I don't have any experience with weed because I've just never been interested. I've never felt that I needed it. And this is just from watching Friends. You tell me if you have personal experience, what yours has been. Because I'm curious. Okay. I took refuge in my work, my friends, my marriage, my garden. Those are nice places to take refuge. I tried to help everyone out. That's also nice. I kept giving and giving and giving. So many good things happening all around me. So many good things being created through me. Still, the feeling of not okay persisted. Where is God in this story? My sponsor might ask me today if I were to report such a batch of unsettled feelings. Well, that would be an extremely good question. I could not have told you where God had gone. The loving deity whose compassionate voice I had heard on the bathroom floor during my divorce seemed very far away during those flush and shiny post-eat, pray, love years. The spiritual practices I had studied with such discipline at the ashram in India had long been neglected, and I had returned to my old habit of trying to control the world in order to feel safe within it. Yoga had been replaced by going to the gym. Meditation had been replaced by hard work and good deeds. A search for divinity had been replaced by constant overreaching and the nonstop hustle for approval. Another way to say it is this: I had taken my life back into my own hands. I was working hard, yes, but I was the one who was doing all the work, struggling to keep myself afloat, striving to fix, manage, and control pretty much everything, battling against reality whenever and wherever reality did not please me, and fighting to keep all internal and external chaos at bay. This is the exact opposite of spiritual surrender, and it will tire a body out. Again, here's the truth that I hate that she's even saying, because then it muddies the waters. Because I think a lot of what she says is insidious, and I think it's dangerous. And then she'll just throw this little truth nugget in there, and it's like, oh yeah, maybe it's not so bad, you know. All right. Because it was true, I was doing great compared to how I used to be doing. Without a doubt, these were the happiest and most stable years of my life thus far. And I was truly amazed at all of my abundance, proud of my fidelity to my marriage, and grateful for my blessings. I just can't imagine, I can't imagine being like, I'm so proud that I'm faithful. Because that's just baseline. It should be just baseline, in my humble opinion. Grateful for my blessings. It's just that I didn't know how to stop feeling exhausted, frightened, and ashamed. But I kept all that dark stuff hidden. Until into my life, into my secret life, stepped Rhea. And then we have a picture of Rhea looking just so directly into the camera. It's kind of like it's kind of a strange picture to choose. Okay, let's see if this piece of crap camera will pick it up. Oh, what do we got to do here to make... you can still see her eyes. How can if I bring it back? No, I'm sorry, guys. This is a webcam, But I think you can get the picture. As in get the drift. Oh, there we go. There we go. And she's beautiful. Very striking. What beautiful features she has. Wow. But it's like, because into my secret life stepped Rhea, and then Rhea's just there like... All right, that's the end of that chapter. Okay, guys, this one's a little long. It seems long. We're only in 14 minutes deep, and I just feel so tired, and I'm struggling. Okay, but we're just gonna power through it. Okay. Yeah, we're just gonna go for it. Okay. Let's go. This chapter is called Why does your nose look like that? Here's the thing I didn't know about Rhea Elias when I moved her into my church. She was great. I'd always known that Rhea was funny and interesting and cool, but I'd never realized that she was great. Okay, now I'm interested to know what she means by great, because I think if someone is funny and interesting and cool, okay, well, I mean, they have to be kind too. And then if you added kind to that list, then I'd be like, okay, they're pretty great. For many years, after all, our interactions had been sporadic and limited. We saw each other only when I needed a haircut, and never for more than an hour or so at a time. She would cut my hair, we would catch up on each other's lives, she would make me laugh, and then we would go our separate ways. Consumed as I was by my own dramas and projects, I never thought much about Rhea when I wasn't sitting in her chair, and I doubt she thought about me. We never saw each other in the outside world or in social settings. But as soon as she moved out to New Jersey and became part of my daily life, I got to see her interacting with others, and that's when her greatness became evident. You know what? That is so true because, okay, the first time I went to a doctor's appointment with my boyfriend, like before this, I had always been telling him, because we work different times of day, and so we're not often out socially together. Unless we're at the grocery store, you know what I mean? So we're like two ships that pass in the night. So I would always be saying to him, you don't know how good I am with people. Okay. I got some skills. I mean, you can't tell on here either. Who is this woman? Anyway. And then one time I went to his doctor's appointment with him again, because English isn't his first language. So, and you know how doctors, it's sometimes, if you're international, sometimes, they just kind of blah, 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 blah. And then if you're sitting there not only trying to process everything that's being said to you, in a language that is not your native language, processing your health, and then also processing what they're saying to you in these words. And it's so much. And so anyway, I went because I'm that's not happening. And I'm going to be asking questions and getting the nitty gritty. And it was halfway through the appointment, the doctor just stopped talking to him altogether and just started talking to me. And he was like, oh, I see now. When we left, he's like, yeah, he's like, you got his attention. You were just honed in. He's like, you are good in situations like that. And I was like, see, but all that being said, to say, sometimes you don't realize what someone is until you see them interact with someone other than yourself, good or bad, So that can be a very attractive thing when you see how a person can talk to, even a waiter or waitress, or a doctor, or, the person checking through the groceries, just anybody, it can be a very attractive thing when you see them being able to interact. So I totally get that suddenly she's like, oh, wow, she's so great. Makes sense to me. Okay. It turned out that Rhea had a talent for human interaction, the likes of which I'd never seen before, nor encountered since. I discovered that I could add her to any social gathering, and she would not only roll with the vibe, but would become the vivacious heart at the center of the event. I never needed to worry about where to sit Rhea at the at the table, or who else was going to be at the party. Everyone loved her. And it's not like she was trying to earn anyone's love through pandering or people-pleasing either. In fact, she was incapable of that sort of thing. No, Rhea always showed up exactly as herself, a boisterous, candid, hilarious, affectionate, rock and roll badass who spoke to everyone with the same fantastically disarming candor, and who drew forth beautiful authenticity from everyone she met. Okay, and this is just annoying me because she said that she was candid and then she said candor. Okay. the first time I saw this candor in action was soon after Rhea had moved into my church. Some overseas visitors were staying at my house, and I wanted to take them to an American Major League Baseball game. Good choice. I love baseball. When I was growing up, my grandparents lived near St. Louis, and we used to always go and see the Cardinals, and oh my gosh, that was so much fun. I had a blast. It was hot as Hades out there, though. You could hardly breathe. It'd be so humid in St. Louis. Oh my God. But it was so much fun. And I've been to so many Jays games as well, but I don't know which ones are more fun. It's all fun. I just love baseball. Like I don't understand baseball very much, but I'm just happy to be there. Okay. I invited some neighbors and friends to join us as well, and I invited Rhea. Since there was such a big group of us, I ended up renting a stretch limo, so not my life, so we could all go to the game together and not have to worry about parking. But as we began the long drive to Shea Stadium that day, the fun I'd anticipated wasn't quite happening. The conversation in the back of the limo was stilted and forced. Most of my guests didn't know one another. So there were a lot of polite inquiries about where everybody was from and what they all did for a living. I was doing most of the social heavy lifting. Well, of course, they're all your guests. Shocker. Trying to entertain my guests and find subjects that we could all relate to, but the conversation wasn't flowing all that smoothly. I also had to admit that it was a little strange to be sitting in the back of a stretch limo in the afternoon with a bunch of grown-ass adults. I mean, it's not like it would be less strange if they were children. Like, I just think it's strange no matter what, because like it's kind of, it might have been a better turn of phrase to say that it was strange to be sitting in a limo in the middle of the afternoon with a bunch of adults where no one, you weren't part of a wedding party. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, anyway. As if we were on our way to some weird later in life prom. Well, prom doesn't happen in the afternoon, sweetheart. In my experience, it happens in the early evening. Okay. But then one of my guests suddenly flew into a copious and uncontrollable sneezing fit. She was deeply embarrassed, but she couldn't seem to stop sneezing. She explained that her allergies were unmanageable this time of year. In the springtime in New Jersey, everything was in bloom. Rhea handed the woman a tissue and said, "Man, I've got allergies too. It's the worst. Does yours come with post-nasal drip?" "Yeah, mine too. I hate that shit. Doesn't it remind you of when you used to smoke crack and you would always get that nasty acidic cocaine drainage thing happening down the back of your throat?" The limo fell silent. I looked around. Okay, I've already decided that I kind of like Rhea. Like, I just like her a lot already. I think she's crazy and unhinged, but I just think I would have really liked her. Okay. I looked around at the startled faces, taking in the impact of Rhea's words upon these deeply respectable people. A civil engineer, a stay-at-home mom, an art teacher, a school nurse. None of them, by any stretch of the imagination, looked like they had ever been a crack aficionado. Rhea also looked startled. "Wait, you guys know that you know what I'm talking about, right? Don't you remember the horrible crack cocaine taste?" More silence. Now Rhea was genuinely astonished, glancing around the crowd, trying to find a taker. "Nobody? Seriously? Are you telling me that none of you ever smoked crack? Never? Not even in the 80s? Not even you, Liz?" Trying to break the awkwardness, I said, "Me? Are you kidding, Rhea? Well, you were out there on the streets smoking crack. I was at the library writing term papers." Okay, I don't know, guys. What do you think? Like, sometimes she just seems like she is just being such a bitch. Like, all you could have said is like, "Well, in the 80s, I was in grad school," or "I never saw the light of day in the 80s because, I was busy writing term papers." But it's the, "Well, you were out there on the streets." I just find sometimes it's so unnecessary. I feel like she's a little just too, like, just Get that little dig in there. Okay. But Rhea seems to be a good sport. Rhea burst out laughing, gave me a high five. But you know what? That can also be a way to, like, protect yourself. It's like, like if I'm laughing at it, then everyone else laughing at it, it's like I'm in on the joke. It's not happening to me. But maybe she was just that cool. She was like, yeah, whatever, man, you know? Rhea burst out laughing, gave me a high five, and exclaimed, well, I guess that explains why you're paying for the limo, and I'm just riding in it. Okay, see, to me, that means that probably was embarrassing. Because then she immediately self-deprecates. Oh, right. It's like Liz just let her know her place by saying, while you were on the street smoking crack, I was in the library writing term papers. So then Ray is like, ha ha ha, I guess that explains why you paid for this limo and I'm just sitting in it. Yikes. Everybody roared with laughter. What is wrong with people? I would have literally been sitting there like, no, this is a strange interaction. But we don't know. You know what I mean? Like, she's telling us what she wants us to hear. You know, maybe maybe people weren't like roaring with laughter, but they were more like, like, is it okay for me to laugh at this? That's what I'd be doing. Well, I wouldn't even be doing that. I'd just be like, all right. Okay. Everyone roared with laughter, and that was it. From that moment on, all formality was cast aside, and we had a blast together. Because Rhea had been so immediately authentic, everyone else got to be authentic too, shedding their carefully arranged public personas and becoming loose and free. Sorry, I was just going to make a joke, but I'm going to leave it. And I got to sit back for the rest of the afternoon, pardon me, and take a rare break from trying to keep everyone happy because Rhea was doing it for me. And she was doing it without even trying. Over time, I would learn that this moment had not been an anomaly. Rhea was indeed a social magician who could make anyone feel at ease, who was funny and direct and warm, and who always cut right to the center of human realness. Hey, you little fucker, is how she used to affectionately greet my godson. Who was about 6 years old at the time, and who kind of was a little fucker back then, albeit in an awesome Tom Sawyer sort of way. Rhea's salutation always made him laugh because it was so clear she had his number. He loved it. I'm pretty sure it didn't make him laugh because this 6-year-old is like, she's got my number. I think having had children who were once 6, he wasn't laughing because he thought you had his number. He was laughing because you said the F word. He loved it. His parents loved it too. They explained to Sloane that there was such a thing as regular language, which normal people spoke, and then there was Rhea language, which only Rhea was allowed to speak. And Sloane totally got it. Even a first grader could see that Rhea was different from other people, and that normal rules didn't apply to her. You guys know I hate kids, right? She casually mentioned one night at dinner with the same family, who happened to have 2 other children, as well as Sloane, all of them present. Then she added, looking at the dumbstruck children, no offense, guys, it's nothing personal. It's just that kids suck. You'll see for yourself someday. Okay, I hate it when people do this. Because you can't help that you're a child. And you can't help, you can't, never in your life can you help what age you are. And you can't help it when you're a child. And I remember people saying this around me when I was a child. And I remember like laughing and acting like it was a big, joke, but it hurt my feelings and it was embarrassing and it was humiliating because I was just by virtue of being a kid, even if they're still nice to you, you get this self-conscious oh, I'm sorry. And I hate that for kids because kids should be allowed to feel like they can share space. The kids burst out laughing and loved her forever as a result. Okay, that's also called a fawning response, but anyway, just take a first-year psych class, Elizabeth Gilbert. So, yeah, it's not shocking that a child would laugh when they hear that because they're, it's embarrassing and they're nervous, and it's a normal reaction to laugh when you're shocked, and then they love her more. Fawning, because they're trying to make up for the fact that they are children, and they're trying not to piss her off, and they're trying to feel okay about the fact that they are present around someone who doesn't like them. And so how can I make you like me? By loving you. Jeepers. Honestly, I think Elizabeth Gilbert has like the self-awareness of a freaking stump. A stump might be more self-aware. And when I say forever, I mean forever. One of those children, Callie, now 19 years old, recently got a Ray-inspired tattoo so she could honor her hero for the rest of time. Well, the rest of her natural-born days, not the rest of time. And also, like, yes, of course, you could grow, and as you grow, you would grow out of that embarrassment. But I'm just saying that I don't like that whole interaction, and then her acting like, oh, the kids laughed, so it was fine, and then they loved her more. Baloney. But this is how Rhea was. Also, it just shows me how unhinged Rhea was. Like, I just said that I liked Rhea, but obviously, I mean, I think she was obviously a little, she had her demons, and she was a little, unconventional, which is fine, but that's just not a responsible thing to say around children. I don't think. That's like, okay, would you say around, someone who is disabled? Oh my God, I hate disabled people. No offense, but you'll get it sometime, when you got someone in front of you and they're walking really slow and you're just trying to get to the door. Yeah, really annoying. I mean, I just can't think of any other context in which that would be appropriate or funny. Like, oh, I can't stand people with Down syndrome. Oh, no offense, honey. Like, you can't put that in any other situation. Like, and just try with ethnicity. Like, my whole point is that I think it's inappropriate. And I just think that it doesn't translate well to any other sort of example. The only thing, I mean, a lot of people wouldn't even let you get away with it if their German Shepherd was sitting there and you're like, oh God, I hate German Shepherds. No offense. They'd be like, okay, well, you can leave. You know what I mean? Like, all right, that's my rant. You let me know what you think. But if you disagree with me, this is one you're not going to convince me out of, that's for sure. All right, but this is how Rhea was. The straightest of straight shooters. Okay, but sometimes, like, it's also called not having any wisdom. Okay, I was listening to, She's a Lady today in the car. By Tom, help me. She's a lady. What is his name? Oh, God, I swear, every time I get on here, my brain just blanks. Anyway, and one of the lines in that song is, she always knows she has style, she has grace, whenever she always knows her place. And I know that that's like not maybe politically correct anymore. I love that whole song. Let me tell you. There's nothing wrong with knowing your place. I think that's not just a female thing. Men need to know their place. Like, everyone needs to know their place. Like, sometimes you're in a room and you need to know your place in that room and when to shut up, right? And sometimes there's a difference between a straight shooter and someone who just doesn't have wisdom to know their place in their social situation at that moment and when to zip it, right? Because let me tell you, if you are sitting down to dinner with someone who has children and those children are present at that table, that is not the time to say you hate children. It's not being a straight shooter. That is just bringing something up nonsensically. And yeah, that's just yapping. That's just going off. You know what I mean? Being a straight shooter is being, you're in a conversation and you're just being direct and to the point and this is how it is and this is the truth. And, you're not adding fluff. Being a straight shooter isn't just like saying whatever comes into your mind at all times. That's just called being an asshole. All right. The straightest of straight shooters. If she found herself seated with a bunch of intellectuals and was unable to follow the drift of their conversation. Guys, I'm sick. She'd be like, guys, nobody has any idea what the fuck you're talking about. This isn't, take it back. I don't like her. In this moment, I don't like her. Because that's not being a straight shooter. That's being insecure. And if they're talking about something that I don't understand, I don't want that conversation to be going on. Because I have to be involved. I have to be a center of attention. No one knows what the fuck you're talking about. Yeah, if she found herself seated with a bunch of intellectuals and was unable to follow the drift of the conversation, she'd be like, guys, nobody has any idea what the fuck you're talking about. And everyone would feel instant relief at not having to pretend to be smart anymore. Well, which is it? Because if you're saying it's a bunch of intellectuals, that means they are smart. And being on the campus every single day, I can tell you that smart people talk about intelligent things and concepts. And, I'm in philosophy. Imagine. I'm in the philosophy department. Me who can't find my words. And people just sit around and talk about philosophy and philosophers. And that's just how it is. But, imagine. Imagine. One of my favorite things is to sit around people and they're talking about things I don't know. I love it. I'm like, oh, what is this? Oh, tell me about this. And then I start asking questions because that's okay. Let me honk my own horn for a second. That's how you know someone doesn't have an ego, right? When they can sit down and hear something that they don't know what it is. Everyone there is talking about it and they are okay to be like, I have no idea what this is. Like, let me in on this. Like, I want to know. Tell me about it or give me a little bit of info so I can at least do a little Google, But if someone's like, guys, no one has any idea what the F you're talking about. That's ego. All right. Well, and then everyone would feel relief. Okay, that was my point is that, well, which is it, Elizabeth? Because first you're saying like they're intellectuals and they're having intelligent conversations, but then they're relieved that they don't have to try to pretend to be smart anymore. Well, if they're pretending to be smart, they're not intellectuals, is my point. Okay. One night when she was seated at a restaurant next to someone who was acting particularly arrogant and entitled, she just laughed at his antics and finally said, wow, man, I never knew what a little bitch you could be. Okay, I can agree with that one. People do need to be called out when they're being a holy terror, especially to wait staff or in like some sort of service capacity, because that just drives me bonkers. Everyone should have to work in the service industry for at least 3 years. That's my opinion. I think before people go to university, they should have to work in the service industry 3 years because it would do them a lot of good. You get this entitled little brats coming to university, and let me tell you, they just drive me nuts. Okay. And the wildest thing was that this little bitch started laughing too, amazed and disarmed at having been called out with such blunt but affectionate honesty. I think part of me is also very much like this, so I'm like struggling to understand. I'm like, what? Like, so what's the big deal? Somehow Rhea had managed to cut him down to size at the same time as tucking him under her wing. And in the end, he only loved and trusted her more for her honesty. That is because men love nothing more than being lectured by mommy. In my opinion. Okay. You could say that Rhea had no filter, and some people did say that about her, but I don't think that's fair. To say that someone has no filter is to imply that they are not in control of their words, that truths slip out of their mouth unbidden and land upon their targets in a sloppy or chaotic manner. That is not true, Elizabeth Gilbert. Saying that someone has no filter is saying that someone does not employ their capacity to consider the social situation in which they find themselves and then regulate their comments accordingly. That is what that means. Okay. That is not how I experienced Rhea. I believe she knew exactly what she was saying, and she said it with intention. Well, yes, as I just said, saying that someone doesn't have a filter is not saying that they are unintentionally saying something, that they don't know what they're saying. It means that they are showing lack of judgment in how they are saying it and when they are saying it. But, you know, welcome to planet Earth, I guess. She shot the truth straight out of her heart with the precision of a master archer, and it was beautiful to behold because Rhea loved the truth. Truth was her religion, her passion. When I asked her why she loved the truth so much, she explained that after so many years of having to hustle and lie as an active drug addict, the truth felt like heaven to her. Truth was her place of safety, a badge of honor, and a proof of her recovery. Okay, well, that's wonderful for her, but I doubt that her truth... Sorry, my computer just scanned itself. I doubt that her truth and her truth-telling and her lack of filter felt like heaven to some other people. I mean, sometimes obviously it's necessary, but like I said, I think that sometimes it's just too much. What's more, she believed that being honest was just the simplest path through life and the surest means of eliminating confusion and drama. The truth has legs, she used to say. It always stands. When everything else in the room has blown up or dissolved away, the only thing left standing will be the truth. Since that's where you're going to end up anyway, I figure you might as well just start there. Maybe this notion sounds obvious to you, dear reader. Hold on, how much long? Okay, we got 2 pages left. But to me, it felt like divine revelation. I had never before encountered such directness in a person, nor had I ever witnessed someone who placed such trust in the power of simple and unblinking honesty. I had not grown up feeling that the truth was a place of safety, and for reasons that I will not go into here, it wasn't. From earliest childhood, my survival strategy was always to give the pleasing answer, never the truthful answer, because it felt safer to be pleasing than to be truthful. So I learned how to read other people's faces and discern what they needed to be told in any given moment in order to keep them calm and happy. This vigilance turned me into a nervous child, constantly monitoring the room to stay 10 steps ahead of everyone else. And when I sensed tension coming, misdirecting everyone's attention, or creating some sort of spontaneous and distracting entertainment, or simply running for the hills. It was a tough job for a little kid, making sure nobody around me ever got angry, sad, or disappointed. The strain did a number on me. I always had digestive and sleep problems. I was a bedwetter and a thumbsucker, of course. My little body was a clenched fist. My childhood dreams were horror movies. I was a bright and cheerful child, and I understood that it was very important for me to be bright and cheerful. But I was also jumpy, tearful, easily frightened. At 11, I had the sort of excruciating backaches that people get in middle age. My hands always shook. I remember teachers commenting on it. "Smart girl like you, why can't you draw a straight line?" Who can draw a straight line? Because being straight is scary, lady. But it wasn't scary to Rhea. Not only was she deeply honest with... I'm sorry, I'm laughing because my best friend is a lesbian and she would cackle at that. Because being straight is scary, lady. She would cackle at that. Okay, anyway, in a different context. Okay. Not only was she deeply honest herself, but she had the most sublime ability to tell when someone was being dishonest with her, and she would never let them get away with it. She didn't want your false self, our friend, the writer Jonathan Miles would say of Rhea at her memorial service years later. She wouldn't allow your false self. And so we all spilled our truths to her sooner or later, whether we'd originally planned to do so or not. Back in college, I once took an ethics class with a professor who both looked and sounded exactly like Peter Falk. Oh my God, that would be heaven. I would marry Peter Falk like instantly. I love that man. Like, oh my God, I just love him. Columbo is like my favorite thing. And the films that he did with John Cassavetes, oh my God. So good. Okay. Anyway, I remember him teaching us that many people learn to lie as children because we are given such mixed messages from our caregivers about the nature of honesty. As he said one day in his fabulously thick New York accent, take my mother, for instance. She demanded the truth, but she couldn't deal with it. Take my mother, please. But Rhea both demanded the truth and could deal with it. And that, to my eye, was a miracle. If there was anything tense or unspoken between Rhea and another person, she'd say to them, let's just lay it on the table, man. The sooner we see this mess, the sooner we can start cleaning it up. And don't spare my feelings, dude. Just say it. I'd rather have it come out wrong than stay in all wrong. Because if it stays in, it's gonna be all wrong. I'm like that too. And a lot of people are like, they just don't know how to deal with it. They're like, what? I just wanted this to fester. And I never did see her use the truth for harm. One night back in 2009, when Rhea had only recently moved to town, I invited her over for dinner with a mutual friend who was going through a divorce. It was a bad divorce, the kind of divorce that involves addiction, abuse, cheating, lying, and the possibility of financial ruin. Let's call my friend Tina. I'd been inviting her over for dinner a few nights a week just to make sure she was okay and to keep her company. But clearly Tina was not okay. She was tanking, and she had the jaundiced skin and swollen face one typically associates with heavy drinking. Out of politeness, I'd made no mention to Tina of how worried I was about her condition. I'd been taught as a child not to pry into other people's private lives, so I stood back and watched my friends suffering from a remove, although I was racked with concern about her well-being. The only way I knew to care for my friend was the way I have always cared for my friends. I will feed you. I will soothe you. I will shower you with encouragement and praise and gifts. I will silently feel your feelings for you. Well, I wish she would stop saying, I will feel your feelings for you, because it's not as though her feeling things are taking those feelings away from that person and causing them to not have to feel them. I wish she would start saying, I will feel your feelings with you or through you, because you can't feel them for someone else. Okay. And I will distract you from your pain with my funny stories. But that night, I had invited Rhea over to our house for dinner, too. Rhea was a mere acquaintance of Tina's, not an intimate friend. But that did not stop Rhea from walking straight up to Tina, putting a hand on her shoulder, and saying with firm tenderness, how are you feeling about the divorce, babe? How's it going? I'm fine, said Tina, just a little tired. Rhea looked more closely at Tina, the same way she used to look at a haircut from all angles, searching for loose strands. Really? She asked. Fine, just a little tired? Yeah, said Tina, slumping farther down into her chair. Rhea leaned in. She took Tina by the chin, gently tilting up her head. Then what's with the yellow eyes? What's with the booze breath? Why does your nose look like that? What's really going on here, dude? Are we really not going to talk about how much you've been drinking? I gasped. Because you can't say that. Where I come from, we do not confront our friends about their binge drinking. Well, then you must not really have friends, because let me tell you, that's stuff I would be on that wagon so quick. I'd be like, what the hell? What the hell? And when someone says they are fine or tired, we accept those answers without further inquiry because, in fact, fine and tired are the only socially acceptable answers to the question, how are you feeling? But fine and tired were never answers that Rhea would accept. I cannot tell you how many times over the years she said to me in exasperation, God damn it, Liz, tired is not an emotion. Dig deeper. Look inside yourself. What's actually going on in there? What are you feeling? When Tina did not immediately respond to Rhea's outrageously direct questions, she pushed again. Come on, Tina. We don't need you to stay all zipped up for us, babe. Just tell the truth. What happened next was astonishing. Tina was taken aback for a moment, but then, far from taking offense, she became unzipped. She collapsed into Rhea's arms and began to weep. For a long time, Tina sobbed while Rhea held her with quiet ease. Then, as Tina's voice returned, the whole story spilled out. She confessed to binge drinking, to cutting herself, to suicidal ideation, to begging her husband not to abandon her, even as he was already living with someone else. She confessed to every last bit of defeat and shame in which she was living. As Rhea took charge of the situation, the entire tone of the evening shifted. The vibe went from Liz trying to cheer Tina up to Rhea allowing Tina to be honest, and the relief was palpable because the unspoken thing had finally been spoken. Tina's awful, hidden, poisonous secret life was now on the table, being openly discussed. Throughout all the sobbing and confessions, Rhea kept her gaze calm, unalarmed, and fully present upon Tina's face. Whenever Tina started drifting back into the drama of her story, Rhea would put up her hand and say, "That's enough of the story, babe. We know the story already. We get it. But we don't live in our stories anymore, okay? If you're living in the story, you're still living in the problem. That's the old way, and it's getting you nowhere. We live in solutions, dude, or else we die. So let's start planning some solutions here. Because the way you're living is about to take you under. And if the booze doesn't kill you, then it's going to make you end up looking like a washed-up old crack whore, and nobody wants to hit that." "I need help," Tina said, laughing and weeping at the same time. "Yeah, you sure do. Will you help me?" Tina asked. "Can I call you tomorrow? Will you come over and help me?" "Nope," said Rhea, "but I can point you to some rooms where help can be found." I sat back and watched this conversation unfold as though I were a visitor from another universe, and maybe I was. How is Rhea doing this? How is she telling the truth, extracting the truth, offering compassion without getting pulled into the role of a rescuer, holding perfect boundaries without laying on any shame, and making the suffering person laugh, all at the same time? What sorcery was this? Okay, that's the end of that chapter. Oh, hi, buds. Hi. Don't do it, Joey. Don't do it. He wants to jump right here, but all right, I'm going to collapse. I don't have much to say because I'm not feeling good. But in the next chapter, we get a poem. It's been a while. So, all right, well, I'm not sure. Maybe I'll just post this tonight because I was going to wait and post it tomorrow. Oh, geez, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I will just post it tomorrow. I'm doing this on Monday night. It's like almost 11, and I'm just like, eh. But I'll post it maybe tomorrow in the morning, and then it can be Tuesdays, and then we'll see. Because production is gearing up, and I have to get well, and it's going to be really hectic, and but I'm going to do my best. Well, I got to go lie down. Thank you for joining me, and let me know what you think of these chapters. I can barely remember anything that we went through, except the parts about being so honest. I mean, yes, but yeah, anyway, I already said what I had to say. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you had an awesome Monday, and I hope that today is even better. Bye. See you soon.